Mm.
Welcome to Blacks and Jews in Conversation. As you heard from Fyvush and Ian Finkle, our guests, we are here to present a history, a montage, and a current tableau of the state of not only the Finkle history, but a history of movies, television, vaudeville, and Broadway. We have a very, very special honor in having Mr. Fyvush Finkle, joined by his son Ian, to present it to you. I've been trying to get Fyvush into the studio for quite some time and have been unable until now to succeed. Now, it's been through no fault of my own, and the fault lies entirely with Ian.
Yeah, that's what you think.
So I'm going to turn the program now over to Ian Finkle, and he will take it from here in interviewing his father. Should his father decide not to answer a single question, I will be the interlocutor.
Yeah, you'll be his lawyer.
Ian?
Now, we're right. Look, first of all, it would be impossible to go through your entire career.
Why not?
In these sessions. Oh, really? We haven't got that. 5 minutes for your career.
Take 5 minutes.
I don't think so. You could fill volumes. But what I prepared here is a bunch of questions that people have asked me to ask you.
You got it.
Okay? You follow what I'm saying? And I'm your inquisitor.
Go right
See,
ahead.
don't look at me like I'm Torquemada. Now, the first thing I want to know, what was your first professional engagement?
I was 9 years old.
Yeah?
Was in a Yiddish theater 2 blocks away from where we lived.
Yeah.
Called Hopkinson Theater.
Yeah, I remember,
And I was 9 years old, and they advertised in the paper they need a young boy to, if he knows the song "Oh Promise Me," a soprano, and they want to check out. They didn't call it auditions in those days. They called it check out.
Yeah.
We want to check them out, and I came there. My father, should rest in peace, brought me there.
Yeah.
And they had about 20 of them, 20 kids, and they picked me. And what happens is that there's a box seat there in that theater. That's where I sat. And on the stage is a wedding ceremony.
Right.
And in the middle of the ceremony, the spotlight goes right to the box seat. And there's a little boy with a beautiful haircut and things like that, a Buster Brown haircut in those days. And I sang "Oh Promise Me," stopped the show cold, and got $1.
Per show or for the week?
No, per show.
Oh, well, that's not bad. Wait a minute.
No, in those days, I was the big shot in my family.
How many shows a week did you do? That's $8 a week.
$8
that's
was
not
a lot
bad.
of money.
It was in those days. We won't say what year. But after
I can tell you what year.
What year was it?
1934.
Well, that wasn't bad, you
know. No.
But after that was your first professional job because you were paid. Yeah. But you went to a high school. You studied to be something else.
Oh, well, my voice changed.
Yeah?
I was about 15 then. My voice was changing. I went to a vocational high school.
Right.
Because my father's side was furriers.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, I better study to be a furrier.
Well, that's not a popular job these days. You can't take animal fur, you know. But in those days, that was a big thing.
Big industry, very big industry. And I went to high school for 3 years to study to be a furrier.
Right. Do you remember the high school?
Sure, Central Needle Trades High School.
Okay.
I remember it very well. And we lived in Brooklyn. The high school was in New York.
Yeah, you had to. Did you take the subway in?
Subway in, subway. And then for me, I enjoyed it. We used to have lunch in the cafeteria near the school.
Yeah.
It was on the first floor of the school. Then it developed, and it became a big building, which it now stands on 24th Street.
Right.
Called Fashion...
Fashion Institute or
the
something.
Fashion Institute. Those days was called Central Needle Trades.
Central Needle Trades, right. They had a big mural.
Oh, that tremendous mural.
I played there once. Yeah, tremendous.
It was beautiful.
And you studied fur, to cut fur.
I studied to be a furrier, not cut, operate.
Oh, operate. Excuse me,
Oh, that was the...
Yeah, you were a surgeon.
I was...
But what happened?
It was. I only worked a half hour at it after 3 years.
Yeah?
I went to my father's cousin. He had a mink house.
Yeah?
So I figured that would be the place for me to go. I went there, and he looked at me, and he knew me when I was a child. And then he said, well, you'll be a nailer. I said, sorry, I don't nail. That's the
Yeah.
lowest form of a
Yeah.
furry is the nailer.
Yeah.
Take the skin according to the pattern and hit
and
the
nail
nail,
it down. Yeah.
to stretch it.
Right.
I'm an operator.
Right.
He says, all right, in those days the women wore muffs,
Yes.
and that's a mink house. He says,
Yeah.
all right, make me a muff. I made him a muff. He looked at the muff and yelled and screamed at me, opened the door, and threw me out bodily.
Yeah.
Bodily. He said, you ruined me $400. And then he called my father, thousands of furriers in the world. You had to send Fyvush to me. I'll never talk to you as long as I live. And they both didn't talk to each other
No
because
kidding,
of that
yeah.
incident. Oh, yes.
And so after, then you went back into show business.
Then I looked for,
Yeah.
I was about 17 then,
Yeah.
close to 18, and there was an availability in Pittsburgh,
Right.
and a cooperative plan, which means no salary.
Yes.
It's cooperative. In other words, they take off all the expenses, and the profit they share evenly.
Yes.
So they had a hard job getting people for that company,
Yeah.
so I took it. I figured, well,
What show was it?
it was a Jewish theater, every week a different show.
And how many weeks were you there?
Oh, I was there for about 30 weeks, 30-odd weeks.
So you had to do over 30 shows.
That's right.
No kidding. It's like
Yeah.
a repertory company.
Sure, it was repertory. They played repertoire, too.
Now, during that period, did you also do the Catskills in the beginning? Or when did
no,
you
the
start
Catskills
the
I
Catskills?
did afterwards.
How many years later?
No, wait a minute. The Catskills I did in 1938.
A few years after.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
That was about 2 years before Pittsburgh. I want to get my facts
Oh, I
straight.
see.
And
Yeah.
then in Pittsburgh, when the season was over, I went to the Catskills. Right? I lived in Brooklyn. I went
Now,
home.
when you were in the Catskills, what was the first hotel you worked in?
The Grand Martin Hotel.
Yes. Yes.
And I was the social director,
Right.
and I was supposed to get $100 for the whole summer.
How long was the season, the summer?
10 weeks.
10 weeks, $100.
Yeah, but the
That's
owner...
$2 more a week than singing "Oh Promise Me."
Yeah, well, but this was with room and board, so
Oh,
to
all
speak.
right, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, he
yeah.
put me in with the 5 musicians in the same room.
Yeah. I thought you were going to use the old gag. He put all the musicians in the same room.
Yeah.
That was the only time they played together.
That's right.
Yeah, all right, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, we had fun in there.
Yeah,
But then he figured I'm not worth the $10 a week.
yeah.
He called me in. I got to take off $1 from you. 9 is enough for you.
No kidding.
Yeah. A dirty, cheap chiseler. That's what he was. So
And in those days in the Catskills, how many hotels were in the
about
Catskills?
400
About 400 hotels.
in those days.
But you stayed in this one hotel for the season. You
Yeah,
didn't-
in those days.
in the later years, I remember you,
Later years,
did
you did an act.
you did your act in many
It was
hotels.
various
you
hotels.
did hundreds of hotels.
Oh, I had a
remember.
contract for 50 hotels a summer,
Mhm.
and you didn't even scratch the surface.
But when you were the social director, did you
Yeah.
have to MC the shows?
MC the show, create activities for the guests. There was no television at that time.
So you had to do like a game night,
a
even
game
then?
night, they had a game night, an amateur hour,
Yeah.
and during the day, tumbling, they called it.
Oh, you had to do the tumbling.
I had to do the tumbling.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me a second. Was that a gay night, you said?
Game night. Quiet. What's the matter with you? It's a family show.
Game night.
Game night.
That
And
means
we don't
that
mean shooting bear
they
either
played-
here.
The game night, they played bingo.
Yeah. Musical chairs.
Musical
everybody-
chairs, all that, all
those
that,
sort of
yeah.
things.
All those
And they
things.
had a movie night also sometimes.
Monday was movie night.
Was movie night.
Yeah.
But during the day, as a social director, did you have to do any of the physical activities?
Sure I did. I was the tumbler.
Yeah.
In other words, when it was really hot, I used to go out with a raccoon coat or fur coat.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's too cold around here. And I have one man push me right into the pool, for a
Oh, you
laugh.
see how far
Anything
back
for a
that
laugh.
goes
Oh,
back, though.
anything
People
for a laugh.
claim to that, but I see that. Well, that's
was anything for a laugh.
Yeah, well, that, yeah.
And I was a tumbler there.
Right.
Then later it developed.
Yeah.
Then about 1942 or 3,
Yeah.
it developed the agent Charles Rapp, should rest
Yeah.
in peace, who was a fine man.
Yeah.
He developed the idea telling the owners, why feed 10 people all summer when you
Right.
can only feed one an MC? And I will send different acts
Yeah,
every
he was the
show
one that
night.
started
He started that.
sending acts.
That's right.
Yeah, and then you started doing your act in
Oh,
other
sure.
places.
That's right.
But you also were on staff in some other places.
Well, I
as
was.
well later,
I had
yeah.
I made a deal.
Yeah,
Where I'm the MC during the day, and Saturday night
you could go.
I can go because they had acts coming in. They didn't need me.
Right, and then
And
in later
Sunday.
years you played all the places.
I played
You
every
stayed
one
in
of
a
them.
bungalow, you know.
And as time went by, I played all the big places. The only hotel I did not appear in was Grossinger's. Otherwise, I
kidding.
appeared in every one of
No
them.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Well, there were 400.
Oh, my God. And I didn't even count the bungalow colonies.
But you didn't do as many bungalow
I didn't
colonies.
do
That
many
was
at all.
a different type of audience.
No,
the
because I was too
rougher.
clean.
Yeah.
My
Your
material was too...
yeah, because they wanted dirtier acts in the
It
bungalow
was too
colony.
family-oriented, my
Yeah,
material.
Which
and
was better for the hotels.
Oh,
They
naturally.
had a higher class
I
of
would,
people.
Well, certainly they did.
Yeah. Now,
Certainly.
what I want to ask you, this is an interesting thing which people don't remember.
Yeah.
You were born in Brooklyn.
Right.
Okay. In those days, they had things, they still call them club dates,
Yeah.
that musicians go to, like a wedding, a bar mitzvah, and things. But what many people don't remember is in your day, maybe what would this be, up to the 50s maybe, they had acts appearing at a wedding and a bar
Oh,
mitzvah.
certainly they
and
did.
you played weddings and bar mitzvahs.
Every wedding used to have a comedian and a singer.
Yeah.
And if they were very rich, they didn't have a dance act.
No
A
kidding.
ballroom dance act.
Yeah.
Today they don't have it. They have a disc jockey.
No, they have
call it
disc
a night,
jockeys.
yeah.
Even the regular bands
at
are
the bar
getting pushed
mitzvahs,
out. Yeah.
I used to do bar mitzvahs
Yeah.
the Saturday afternoon when you didn't have any music.
Oh, so you could just do comedy.
Just do comedy and do
Yeah.
the cake ceremony.
right.
Instead of candles, they used little flags. They put
Oh,
flags
they
in.
wouldn't light the candle.
No, they couldn't.
They
no.
couldn't, so they used flags.
Yeah.
Now, there were, besides you, there were many acts that did, well, they call them club dates.
Oh, they used to call them club dates.
They call them club dates.
You had a lot of
But
Masonic
they're not-
lodges.
They were, that's where the
Alpha
name came
lodges,
from. That's what
yeah.
we're trying to, bring
That's where
out.
they came from, yeah.
See? And you would go and do your act there.
Certainly.
You see? That's pretty, but when you worked, if you did one, let's say in the evening, they had a band.
They had a band.
I mean, you sang. Saturday afternoon, you had to just do comedy.
Right.
But at night, you did it with a band and you sang
Always
some
with a
numbers,
band. Oh,
right?
yes. Oh,
And
yes.
what was it like? What were the audiences like? Let's say, were they rowdy or were they pretty good? No,
Some were rowdy, some were good.
Yeah.
It all depended on the
Yeah,
on the audience.
on
If
the
they had a
crowd.
party where there was
Ian, at
Yeah.
this point, would you tell your father's bio so that the audience should know?
Well, we're going through his bio.
No, but tell
Yeah.
them now in advance.
Yes.
So they know exactly.
How could you not know who he is?
Yes, but we have an audience that spans collegiates and tourists
Well,
and university and
My
all
father,
over the world.
Fyvush, all right. My father, Fyvush Finkle, he's been in countless shows. He was in many movies. He won an Emmy, and we're going to talk about this later, naturally. He won an Emmy for Picket Fences. He was in a wonderful TV show called Boston Public. You were in many movies, which we're going to talk about, you see, and many Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows. We're going to talk about the dramas he's been in. Will that hold you? Okay, good. Now,
That's
all
enough
right.
for 5
Well, that's
hours.
what, but I'm working up to it. Now,
But also give your bio.
my bio means nothing sitting there. When I'm with my father, I insist on being his guest. So what I want to get to is, now I want to get to your theater experience.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to get to, I'm going through chronologically, and by the time I get through, and you got to watch both of these
Wait,
episodes.
I'll lead you into it.
Yeah.
During the summer was the
Yeah.
resort area.
Yeah, and during the regular
And
season.
during the winter, I was in the theater.
And they also had Lakewood.
Lakewood was something else. That
At
was
the-
a winter resort.
In the winter resort. Now,
Yeah.
what I want to also know, even though you made your first professional appearance in a Yiddish show,
Yeah.
singing "Go Promise Me,"
Yeah.
but what was, let's say, your first appearance when you had a role already? You know,
Oh,
a
I was,
regular show. Yeah.
I was in my years, 10 years old, 11 years old.
Oh, then you had
I
roles
played
as
child parts.
young parts?
Sure.
Young boys.
I played child parts.
And then you worked your way older and older parts.
That's right.
But there's a famous story about you. How old were you when you played Aaron Lebedorf. He was an elderly man,
He
an
was in
actor.
his
very
70s.
He was in his 70s, and
Yeah.
how old were you?
I was 24.
You were 24. He was in his 70s, and you played his father.
I played his father, yeah.
Yeah, well, let that be a lesson to the casting agents around town.
Well,
Now, how many Yiddish theaters were there in that era?
well,
That's let's say in the 30s,
in the
right?
30s you had, in Brooklyn alone, 12.
12 in Brooklyn. How
That's
many were,
right.
let's say, in Manhattan?
Manhattan, you had 4 on 2nd Avenue.
Yeah,
You had about 3 in Brooklyn.
yeah,
And you had Vaudeville House
yeah,
on Clinton Street.
yeah.
And you also had in the Bronx 4 theaters.
In the Bronx as well.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, did you play all of them?
I couldn't
Or
play
mostly?
all of them. I
over
played
the
most
years,
of them.
not at the same
Over
time.
the
Yeah.
years, I played
You
all
did.
of them, yeah.
In many shows, were they all musicals, or did you do
No,
some
some were
dramas?
dramas
you know?
and some were musicals.
Yeah, and in that era, every group, so-called ethnic group, had a theater.
That's
There
right.
was an Italian theater.
Italian,
you can see
Russian,
a Russian, Chinese,
German, every kind,
every
yeah.
group. You could see a little bit of it in The Godfather too. In the
That's right. He did his homework.
letter. Yeah, but that sketch was done in every. I bet you in every.
We
group.
did it in Yiddish.
Yeah,
You
that's a
just
letter
didn't-
to the mother, a
You
brief
just
to the
didn't
mama.
sing a number. You had
Yeah.
to lead into it with a sketch.
Right. You had to do the sketch. But you were not only in legitimate shows, I'm talking now in Yiddish theater. We're going to get to the regular Broadway theater shortly, but in the Yiddish theater, but there was also Yiddish vaudeville.
The vaudeville was
That's
done.
acts.
Vaudeville was strictly singles. We
Yeah.
call them singles. In
Yeah.
other words, you told a couple of stories, you sang a song,
Right.
and then they had sketch artists.
Right.
They only appeared in sketches.
Right. Now, let me, in that era, it is known because we saw it, we got it for you, we found the movie you were in when you were a kid. Do you remember the name of that movie? I want to talk about your
Yeah.
movies, and we're going to get to the big pictures later. See, we'll get to the movies, the regular movies you made with, I don't want to go through all of them now, but with Michael J. Fox, and you were in the movie with, called Nixon, you were in many movies, but I want to talk first about the Yiddish theater, the Yiddish movies, because Yiddish movies were very big in the 30s.
They
Before
made
World
them-
War II, they were very big.
Well, a lot were made in Poland before the Holocaust.
Yeah, right.
They were made. The Molly Pecan movies were made in Poland.
Yeah, but where you made yours when you
I
were a
made
kid,
mine was in
where
a
was-
loft on West End Avenue.
Yeah, there wasn't.
And that guy couldn't afford retakes.
No, but you were there.
I was there. I did 2 of them.
Yeah, but then you did another one. You remember the name of it?
I did one when he did a picture with old spots,
Yeah,
old shots, and new ones. He made 3 or 4 new ones,
yeah,
and it was like a concert of
Yeah.
stars of the Yiddish theater.
yeah.
I did one of them.
You
yeah.
did that.
That was called Monticello. Here
Monticello.
we come, but they
Yeah.
had a different name. That's Jewish
Oh,
Entertainment.
that came later.
They
That movie
changed
you
the
can
name.
still buy.
Oh yeah.
Well, you could buy that other movie you were in
You
when
could
you were
buy
a kid. You
anything,
could buy
yeah.
it. You'd be
The other
surprised.
one I'm only in for half
Yeah.
a minute. When I point to the kid, I squeal
Yeah,
on the
you
kid.
squeal on the kid. You
Yeah.
stuck your tongue out or something.
Yeah,
else.
something
But in
like that.
Monticello, Here We Come, you sang a number to
I
the
did. I
movie.
did a sketch
A sketch with
to
an
lead
actress.
into the number.
Do you remember the actress?
Sure, I do.
Who was
Her name was Vinnie. It was Anna Vinnie Dubrow.
Oh, Vidi Dubrow.
Yeah, that was her name.
Was
yeah.
the actress in
Yeah,
it.
she was
yeah.
tiny. That's why they picked her.
Yeah, because you were
I was tall, and
yeah.
that was the comedy there.
Yeah, but I remember when in that era when you did it, you were only allowed to have organ accompaniment.
That's right. He couldn't afford an orchestra.
He couldn't buy. It
No.
wasn't because of the musician strike or
No,
for
nothing.
cello.
There was no strike.
He just didn't have the money for
He didn't
a
have the
band.
money for retakes. He didn't have the money for musicians.
well,
And that's how he did it.
well, we'll get to the big budget films in a minute. Now, during this era, did you have any people that influenced you? I don't mean from the regular Hollywood or Broadway. Were there any Yiddish actors that influenced you at all?
Oh, very much.
Yeah?
There was a star called Ludwig Zatz.
Yeah, Ludwig Zatz.
Oh, he
Good
was
comedian, yeah.
great actor besides. And I have his movie. He made a movie, My Wife's Lover.
Yeah?
Till today, it's fantastic.
No
Beautiful.
kidding.
Oh, terrific.
Is that the one he goes in the water with the
Yeah, he
with
plays-
that duck around him or
That's
something?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you had Marie Schwartz.
Yeah.
You had Skolnick.
Now you should explain to the audience, because it'll be interesting. Marie Schwartz.
He had the Yiddish Art Theater.
Yeah.
But I used to love to watch him act.
And he was the original Tevye in the film.
Oh, he was the greatest Tevye of them all.
And they all admitted that. The greatest Tevye about the movie, which Fiddler on the Roof is based on, which is a musical.
Yeah.
The movie wasn't called Fiddler on the Roof. It was, what was it called?
Tevye.
Tevye.
Tevye the Dairyman.
The Dairyman.
Tevye the Milchike.
I saw that. He was great in that.
Oh, he was the best.
And he influenced you.
He influenced me a great deal to be more serious when I do certain roles, you know.
But comedy-wise, Zatz.
Yeah, the other guy. Then later came Pecan and Skolnick.
Yes, Menashe Skolnick. Yeah, people still remember.
And Aaron Lebedev was a very classical type of an entertainer.
Yeah.
He was like Chevalier.
I remember him.
Marie Chevalier.
But I'd pay a $10,000 a seat to see you at 24 play his father.
Oh,
he was in his 70s.
That's right, and they believed it. The public believed it.
Did he put makeup on? Did you?
No, he didn't do that.
Wear a beard,
I had to wear a beard, not much, you know.
Yeah.
And they believed it.
And in those days, when you wore a beard in theater, you had to make it every show.
I made it for every show, from crepé hair with spirit gum.
With spirit gum.
Sure, I still do.
Yeah, I know.
I still do.
Now, who were your influences in regular Hollywood movies and the Broadway?
Oh, then came Paul Muni.
That's your favorite?
He is my favorite, yes.
Right.
Paul Muni, absolutely.
He's a forgotten man, though, today.
Well,
I'm sorry to say.
Bing Crosby is also a forgotten man.
Yeah, well, I mean, unless you watch TCM, you'll see his movies, and they're great.
That's right.
They're great movies. And,
I have news for both of you,
yes?
and the 2 minutes left, because I want to reserve the last couple of minutes for a very special preview of this album. It's Never Too Late. But, it's a little late in this show.
That's all right. If you want
to. Don't worry about it. We'll do it in the next show.
I want you to know.
Well, we were going to talk about in the next show. We're working our way up there.
It's Never Too Late. A wonderful girl of mine, and I want you to know that Fyvush just lost his wife of I don't know how many years. How many years, Fyvush?
61.
61.
Yeah. Thanks for ending the show on a happy note.
No, we're coming
it's always good for someone to end with a real beat here. Pick up the tempo.
Listen, if you're married 61 years, that's happy. That's very happy, Ian.
Yes.
I must say it's quite an accomplishment.
Yes.
But besides that, almost everything is forgotten today. Paul Muni, listen, if you know Paul Muni, it's a miracle. Everybody has forgotten everybody.
Well, but if you want to know what's good, you have to look at the old film. Say the music and art. You think this is a good painting? Check out the Rembrandts first, the Dutch masters, then you'll know. You can't just say, "Oh, I like." Well, you got to look at the old stuff first. That's how you can form an opinion.
We have Paul Muni, Edward G. Robinson, all of that.
Charles Lawton.
Charles Lawton. I'm talking of the Jewish.
March. Yeah. Oh, all right. Yes.
But I want to.
But the CD, if you want the CD, you can go to my website, ianfinkle.com. And I'll take care of you. It'll send you to my email, all that stuff. We'll get to that next show.
All right, but I want to thank you, Fyvush and Ian, for a wonderful. These were wonderful times, and the show we did before, we talked about all the marvelous projects you did when you never expected to have the career that you should have had years before. It just depends on when a person is discovered at the Sutton Place Synagogue. Well, what can I tell you?
Well, listen, that's a good place to be discovered.
All right.
The Sutton Place Synagogue.
Thank you from Blacks and Jews in Conversation, and we'll see you again next week. And thank you, Emeritus Finkle family.